on the river, turning his blackness into silver. Where are you? Where are you, O cool moon goddess, while the evil one who watches creeps with narrowed yellow wolf eyes, waiting, watching, staring through the darkness? Where are you? Where are you? There is no light. Our prayer is cold. Our gods listen no longer. The people sicken and the herds dwindle. We find neither salmon nor camas. Death. Death stalks the warrior. Death stalks the hunter. Death stalks everywhere. Everywhere the lodges are empty and lonely. Are we justly punished? Is it the great spirit of the pale face who strikes us so harshly? Should we have listened when our brothers warned us? From beyond the shining mountains, the Iroquois, our brothers of the 5 blood nations, spoke of a great and mighty spirit. To the long house of the Mohawks, coming with the pale-faced hunters, came black-gowned strangers, chiefs of peace, they said, messengers of a great spirit chief, carrying neither bows nor knives nor arrows. Black-gowned strangers, men of medicine who cured the sick. Black-gowned strangers speaking of a mighty spirit and his strangely dying son. Black-gowned strangers and other pale-faced strangers, speaking of the Father, Son, and Mother Moon as brother servants of the mighty spirit. So spoke our brothers from the Iroquois, of the messengers of peace and of love.
Let the black gowns come among us. Come to us as to the Iroquois, our brothers. Let them come and live among us. Let them come and pray with us. Let them come to melt the cold and push the winter from our hearts and from our lodges. Let the black-gowned strangers come among us and tell us of peace and of love.
From the east, only recently made aware that rich harvests in the lands and souls of the west needed but tillers, there came the men of God. Jason and Daniel Lee, happily gathering the reds and whites, fed, washed, scrubbed, and taught their motley troop in the land where flowers bloom at Christmas and storms never blow. This was the hunting ground, Willamette Valley, the French called it, while to the Shoshones it was Oyer-Ungan, the place of plenty, our Oregon, where the hush of sundown deepens the cloudless azure of the long, rolling, blue mountains, came intrepid Marcus and gentle Narcissus, those undaunted Whitmans who prayed that kindness at last had found place in the code of the treacherous Cayuses, prayed more, hoped, too, that pity no longer was synonymous with weakness in the indolent minds of the Nez Perces. The tall mountains, cold blue and touched with snow, with turbulent streams and tangled paths, led to wild hills and valleys. Here in this wilderness, strange and remote from that ordered, pleasant Canadian land, the two Bishop brothers Blanchett and Modeste de Mere gazed with heart-sick thoughts of home at this boundless parish, this garden to be tended, to be made to bloom. Could this be made a vineyard of the Lord? In His will would lie their peace. All these were tender, gentle-hearted men who learned the heartache and the tragedy of the frontier.
Mother Joseph gazed at this cupulid house, this stately new house she loved so well. With a saw in her hand and a hammer at her belt, she marched purposefully toward the loose-dipping picket she'd meant to fix at the east end gate, where friend and neighbor paused to lean and chat. Ah, yes, it was good to pause, too, to feel the crisp, cool breeze, rustling the new spring leaves, stirring the heart to thoughts of days not so long gone.
If only that first frightened band, those 5 young pioneer sisters from Canada, coming here in '52, could see this growing place, this happy little town called Fort Vancouver. Her heart caught and ached with the memory of messages reaching Montreal after long, silent months. Letters that finally told of terror and fatigue-filled days while crossing the isthmus at Panama on scrawny-boned company mules, too mangy, too scurvy to carry their own bones. One trotted along a sheer precipice edge. Another took to the woods, while still others, in sharp kicking sprees, toppled baggage and riders into slimy swamp mud pools.
Meanwhile, wherever they turned among the 500 battered travelers, often strenuously, sometimes gaily cursing themselves or each other, there was heard above all else the extravaganza dream of gold. Gold! Gold! From coast to coast in Europe as well went the startling news. There's gold, big handfuls of gold, gold everywhere in the unnamed creeks of California. So quite suddenly, the little Indian village of Buena Yerba became the luscious, full-grown city of San Francisco. What a port, what a population. Whites jostled the yellows, the blacks the browns, while the Christians, pagans, and atheists happily drank in ribaldry with the brigands and assassins. What a rioting, mad-bound spot, this new Babylon.
But the stay in the city of St. Francis was not a long one. On to Fort Vancouver, where the teaching of children, care of the sick, and visiting the poor was to be begun. What a joy it would be to do the Lord's work in this untamed paradise. There would be little enough to work with, that was sure. There would be sacrifices aplenty, that was sure too. But Providence would provide, would it not? Little did they suspect that divine providence would permit in the plans for the future such unheard-of terrors and sacrifices as would halt the most staunch-spirited explorers.
In the meantime, this hopeful band did not know that the mails starting months before them had not reached the west, telling of their coming or of the cabins to be readied. 60 anxious days at Oregon City passed, with no further orders from the mother house. Between the Atlantic and the Pacific, somewhere lay stacked the explanations and the questions, each side fearfully wondering at the cold silence of the other. And so the five started home again, stunned and shocked, disappointed that their courageous willingness was seemingly unwanted in the New West, which Bishop Blanchett had described as ready for the works of zeal and charity. It must be the long way around the Cape this time. The South American sugar cargo, Elena, creaked out of San Francisco to falter, stagger, and wallow 11 weeks on becalmed equatorial waters. With the crew often mutinous or alternately jolly, shouting their rough sailor jokes and songs, while the captain and first officer stalked each other jealously, glaring lecher-eyed, dagger-ready, gun-cocked. Almost imperceptibly, the mood changed. There were cornered whisperings, veiled furtive glances. What did they mean? Then suddenly, where is the food? Where do we get water? We're going to die out here. Die like beasts, like dirty, slinking beasts. We will not die. There must be a way. Again, the sidelong, measuring looks.